That looks about good. When I say good, you're going to see looks a bit f***ed really, but hi there guys, welcome back to another episode of XL Garage. So as you guys would have seen in the previous episode, we're rocketing along with the GT86 LS swap here. Just to bring you up to speed if you haven't been watching along so far. This is a 2013 GT86. It's got a Rocket Bunny V2 wide body kit on it, it's got airbags, it's got suspension, has big brakes. So it has all the show, but never had any of the go. So to fix that, got a LS3 we're swapping into it here. And in the last episode, I showed you through all the bits I have recently received to kind of finish up this swap. Get it running, get it driving, get it ready for being tuned and running and so on, because the engine itself I rebuilt myself. So hopefully, fingers crossed, that fires. And of course, one of the key components of getting any car running is fuel. Without that, you're not going to go far. And so there is a couple of things I could have done to keep the original fuel pump, keep the original fuel lines. Could have been a bit budget with it and just teed them back together, pumped them into the LS and it would have fired up, absolutely no problem. But I decided I wanted to run brand new fuel line, upgrade the fuel pump, things like that, because it really doesn't cost a huge amount. So that's what we're doing this episode. Got a few bits here, got a fuel pump, got some fuel line, got some AM fittings, got a few other little bits. So we need to pull the stock fuel pump out, fit the new one, run the new line, and we should be good to go. Let's go to the back of the car, pull out the existing fuel pump assembly, and we start dissecting that and getting this new one in. Let's dive into it. Right, so in the back of the car here, we've obviously already got the plate that covers up the fuel pump assembly removed because we had to remove the original fuel lines. So there's a couple more things to take off. Got a electrical connector here. There we go, gets that out of the way. Now we need to take off the locking ring that holds the fuel pump assembly in. It's quite important to note the orientation of this. We've got a little blue mark here, and that points these three lines on the back here. You probably can't see it from your angle, but take my word for it. And usually the easiest way to take these off is just to hammer them around. Like so. And hopefully there's not too much fuel that comes flying out of here when I pull this out, because I pretty much drove the car till I had an empty tank when I stored it away, and some fuel has leaked out since. We have a fuel pump assembly. Now we need to be careful of the level float that will be sitting in here. That should be much further down. Shouldn't have to worry about that too much just yet. There we go. There's one little hose we should be able to get off. Oh, there we go. Now we need to take this over to a bench. We'll start dissecting it. Let's go do that now. Right, so workbench space is a little bit of a premium here in the little workshop. So I've just got myself set up here on a little bit of wood. For the first thing first, we have to separate the top from the bottom to kind of get the cage apart. And to do that, we need to remove this little circlip here. There we go. Let's pop that down there. And this should allow it to all just come apart. There we go, keep that spring, obviously. Right, it's all very fiddly, so you're going to have to excuse me a little bit. But essentially what we now need to do is, there's 3 clips. There's one. 2. And there we go. Getting into a right mess, aren't I? Now we have the fuel pump assembly and the fuel basket separate. And what we're also going to be doing is installing a fuel starvation fuel flap. Probably not the most important things in the world, but they say that sometimes you can get fuel starvation if you go around corners on a track, and this little flap just helps to keep fuel inside the basket. And this goes down in here. Just grab this and pop it in here. There we go. Now you can see we've got a little flap just living down here. That was an easy enough job. Next bit is to get the actual fuel pump out. This can be quite tricky. And you've got these 5 clips that go around the outside. We really need to have like 8 hands to unclip all of them at the same time. They say it's good to have some screwdrivers wedged in there. There we go. Bit of an ordeal. Let's get rid of all these screwdrivers. Now before we reinstall all this, I need to make some modifications. Essentially, need to retain the 2 clips, but get rid of the old fuel sock. I'm going to go off and cut this. We'll come back and show you that. Right, cut this off to retain the 2 clips. Got our fuel pump prepped with the O-rings and the collars. Got to pop this up in here. Pop this clip back on to hold the fuel pressure regulator. We can pop the sock on. There we go. And now it can all go back together. There we go. Now we need to put the spring back on, put it all back together. There we go. Finally get the C-clip back on. There we go. There we go, one modified fuel hanger. With a new pump, new sock, and a little fuel door flap. Voila! I think you'll all agree I need to tidy up a little bit. I'm gonna get this back in the car. Probably won't show you that. We'll focus on running the new fuel line. Let's do that. Right, so now it's time to make our fuel line. Got some AN PTFE hose here. This is how the end started off, just nice and cut. And I've already slid on the first part of the fitting, which is kind of the collar. Need to push this through a little bit more. So let's, gonna use the vise for this. And I don't have any fancy jaws or anything, so hopefully I don't screw up the fitting too much, but I'm really not that fussed. It's just needs to hold fuel. He says as he rushes off to go get something to not scratch it. Just going to use a screwdriver to pick the lining apart a little bit. There we go. Got our olive. She needs to go over the plastic section. And finally, it's quite simple. You just got to get this inside there. Can be quite tricky, so I'm just going to use a little bit of fogging oil. It just makes it considerably easier. There we go. And now all I need to do is tighten it all together. If I had the right spanner, that would help. So I think I've got the thread started now. Just need to tighten it down, and that's nice and sealed. Never made one of these before, so I meant to have some fancy spanners. I've only got this. It's not too great. I'm going to try using a socket. Yep, that's working. It's gnarling up the bottom fitting a little bit, but apparently you're meant to have a 1mm gap between the two when it's all said and done. Still not there yet. Definitely could do investing in some of these fancy spanners if I was going to make a lot of these, but oh shit. That looks about good. When I say good, you're going to see, there we go, bit beat up, but whatever. As long as it holds fuel, doesn't really matter. So on the other end of all this, I've got this. It's a push fit onto where the fuel pump comes out. And then as you can see, the two thread together nicely. Done. So I'm going to go away and put this on the end of the fuel pump. I'm going to run this through the car. Hopefully it's long enough to come out in the engine bay near the engine. The other side is done as well. Right, let's take you on a little journey then, shall we? So starting off at the fuel tank, we have the new AN line adapter, push fit, and the AN line, and that disappears off down that gap there. And if we go under the car, here, as per it did originally, and I'm going to use P-clamps to tie it into each one of these original studs, all the way along here. And then it's going to take a 90 at this bolt here. I'll put a P-clamp here and send it this way. Can't really see it, but it's going to disappear up behind the gearbox. And that brings it up behind the engine. And then as you can see, we have plenty of length. So I'm probably going to cut it like here, give myself a a couple of inches extra room just in case, and that should go in quite nicely. So I'm going to pull this back out, cut it, put another fitting on it, and I'll show you the finished result. Right, so here we are under the car again, and as you can see, the fuel line comes down there, it's P-clamped there, P-clamped there, P-clamped there, and then here, and disappears up behind the gearbox. And then when we come up top, it pops out back here and goes right into the fuel rail. Done. That means we've done the fuel pump all the way at the back, done the fuel flap at the back, we've run a new line, and now we've got fuel to our fuel rail. Perfect. And there we have it, guys. That was a little bit harder than what I was expecting, definitely to run the fuel line. Just getting the lines created can be such hard work. I mean, my hands are absolutely filthy. That's what we're going to end today's episode, needless to say. I think next episode we're going to get on to dressing the front of the engine, getting the water pump and the alternator and all that on, ready for the wiring the following episode. So hopefully in a few episodes time, we may even be talking about starting the car, which should be, it's still mind-blowing. I can't believe it's coming so soon. It's a little bit scary, I think. I feel like I'm missing so many little tasks that I have to do along the way. But whatever, that's where we are, so exciting times. Hopefully you guys enjoyed this episode. Of course, I didn't want to go too in-depth and bore some people if they're not specifically following for a GT86 build, or if people are just watching it generally. And in a way, I've not done this before, so I wouldn't call me an expert by any stretch of the imagination. But there we have it. So I hope you guys enjoyed this one. If you did, drop a comment down below. Let me know what you think. Drop the video a like and subscribe to the channel, as I always say. And I hope you guys keep coming back to watch more and follow along. Hope to see you guys in the next episode. Until then, though, have a good one, and I'll see you soon. Cheers. Bye for now.
What's all this for? It's got me turned around, but I can't ignore the feelings that I found in this whole damn thing.